Now, 4 days into Colorado's preseason camp, Brian, we've had a chance to talk to both of the coordinators this week, do some player interviews as well, and then tomorrow is going to be media day. We're actually going to be able to watch a little bit of practice. So I figured we'd kind of recap our interviews here, and then tomorrow we can share some of our observations. Starting with Mike Sanford, I put this on the Buff Stampede message board that if he can call plays as well as he can talk, then he's going to have a lot of success here as the offensive coordinator because he just kind of exudes confidence, and you can tell that he's an extrovert that really enjoys talking about the guys he's coaching.
Well, you can see why he was hired as a head coach at one point, and why maybe he's a head coach in the future as well. I mean, he can talk, he can work the media, and sell a program that way. And frankly, you listen to him, and at least for me, maybe I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, but you listen to him, like, it's hard not to get excited about the offense a little bit and say, wow, okay, everything's different. He makes it sound like there's going to be a lot of positive changes and it'll be exciting. And I know, I looked at some stats. I know some of his results, in the past have not been the greatest. And obviously he was let go by Minnesota basically. And so that's never a great thing. But maybe this is a great fit for him with him and Darrell and the players. But I like what I hear out of him so far.
One of the guys he mentioned was a name that kept coming up a lot this spring, and that's Daniel Arias, a guy that, again, I know has had kind of ups and downs here, but is a guy that really seems like he's putting it all together here going into his senior year.
Yeah, and actually, as we're doing this, practice has been over for a little bit, and he's one of the few guys out here still working. So, Daniel was mentioned quite a bit in the spring. It's good to hear him still mentioned right now. I mean, I think there's a potential for a big year for him. Coach Darrell mentioned him to me last week at Media Day as well. I think Daniel could be one of the keys to the receiver group, because if he takes it to the next level, then I think the rest of the receiver group can kind of fall in line behind that.
Yeah, and Jordan Tyson again. I mean, it's gonna sound like a broken record with the number of times that he's been mentioned. Another true freshman that was mentioned to me by Isaiah Lewis he said Dillon Dixon has come in, and obviously it's a steep learning curve coming in, especially at that safety position. But he was a guy that was their first commit in the class of freshmen that just got here and stayed solid throughout that entire process. Other schools came in on him throughout that process, played a lot of different roles in high school. I don't know how much he's going to get on the field this year. If you're a CU fan, you probably don't want him to be out a ton, because that would mean there might be an injury to a starting safety. But he's a guy that, based on kind of the rumblings we're getting, has a pretty bright future here at CU.
Yeah, and to me, he's a guy. I saw him a little bit today. He looks big. I mean, that's a big kid for a safety. If he's on the field, I think maybe that's a good thing, that if he can work his way into one of the top 3 or 4 spots in safety, and he's at least a backup role, maybe sort of like a Trevor Woods was last year that got his feet wet. But I like Dillon Dixon. He's one of my favorite guys in this class, and so he's one that I would not be surprised to see him on the field in the first year.
I mean, if you're a CU fan, the number one things you want to hear coming out of this preseason are that they are cultivating depth at safety, that they're cultivating depth on the O-line. I still kind of look at this football team, and the biggest reason for pessimism would be if they get injuries at either of those 2 spots, you're starting to worry pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think so. Just because we don't know how these guys play. Maybe if there's injuries, maybe Dillon Dixon is really good, or maybe Jeremy Mack is really good. Some of these guys that they brought in, maybe they're really good, but we haven't seen it yet. And so it sounds a little scary right now when you go beyond Trevor Woods and Isaiah Lewis. What are they going to look like at safety?
Had a chance to talk to Chris Wilson today. Again, engaging personality. He seems a little more guarded sometimes in terms of the amount of information that he's willing to share in those media scrums. But he always goes back to how they're custom tailors, and that's been pretty much his consistent message ever since he got promoted to be the defensive coordinator here.
Yeah, he kind of has the same message, and like Sanford, a good personality. And he's one that he sort of gets you fired up a little bit. He's got that Eric Bieniemy voice, off after practice, where it sounds like he's yelling so much he doesn't have much of a voice left. But I think Chris Wilson is a guy that players like, from what I can gather, and he kind of gets them motivated a little bit. And you listen to him, and it sounds like things are good, so you take the message from these coordinators and say, all right, if the players are buying into this, maybe it's actually pretty good. But I like what they're doing with this defense and tailoring it to the guys they have, and not just saying, this is our system, this is what we're going to run. And Chris Wilson talked a lot about that our number one asset is our players, and we need to tailor it to them.
And it seems, based on the hints we've gotten about how this difference is going to look differently this year, that Terrence Lang would probably be set to benefit the most from those tweaks that we're hearing. And you had a chance to talk to another defensive lineman that neither of us had talked to since he got to campus, and it's been, what, 3 years now that Janaz Jordan's been here. I'm curious to hear how that conversation went.
Well, and I don't know about you, but I couldn't even get a hold of him in the recruiting process. So I had literally never spoken to him. I saw him one time, near the ticket office, but I'd never spoken to him. Really nice kid, nice guy, and he's one that last year, remember, he started quite a bit in 2020, and then last year Jalen Sami took over that role. I think Jalen really improved last year, but part of it was Janaz told me that his conditioning wasn't very good. He was playing around 330, 340. Right now he's about 318, I think he said. So he's lost some weight. He looks pretty good, and I think he's going to be a key guy in this rotation. He has been, but I think that he's in for a better year than maybe we saw last year.
Might surprise some people to find out that he actually had the highest draft grade of Colorado's players following spring ball. So a guy that maybe we're not talking a whole lot about, if, like you mentioned, can get that conditioning down, could be a really big part of this defense. All right, we'll be back with more analysis after Saturday's open scrimmage and media day.